is a really, really big district. Also, wanted to mention, I keep looking over here at Doug Wareham. He keeps giving me the evil eye for not asking more banking questions. No, I'm kidding. But the Bankers Association is a big part of this event, and a great, you see their logo, they're a great partner. Doug and I go way back. So if you want to learn about a lot of the folks we're all dealing with, talk to Doug and I later, maybe in about an hour. Right, so thank you for being here, Paul. So opening question, like you've heard, why did you decide to run for Congress?
I grew up in small town Nebraska, Holdridge, an ag community. My dad was a preacher, mom was a teacher, sister a nurse, brother a doctor. And I'm an educator. For the past 40 years, I've worked helping high school students get to college, helping college students finish their degrees and go on to produce their careers. And I've always known in that wonderful call to service that there would be an opportunity where there would be needs that would call me into a larger platform with a larger voice to be able to help more individuals. The bug in the works is trying to figure out when and where that's going to happen. The past couple of years have been very instrumental in my exploration process. And the one thing I've found, one thing I've learned in visiting with the great people in the 60 counties of the 1st District, is there is a common frustration, whether it's Republican or Democrat or unaffiliated, is the inability of our government to actually do its job. And I choose to believe, because Mom told me this and taught me this, that our representatives elected and appointed began their careers truly believing that they were there and called to serve. I believe that. I also observe that in the actions and decisions that many of these taken, that they've lost sight of that call to service. So if not now, when? And if not me, who?
The great, terrific answer. And well, follow up on that, which I just asked Nancy Boyda, since you're from rural Nebraska now to rural Kansas, what do you think the federal government could be doing better or differently to help the economies of rural Kansas?
There is a common folly of government that says because government can, is that government should. And despite whatever question you share with me, that might be part of my answer.
Okay.
Allow wonderful people, gifted, experienced, who are invested in moving forward our communities to help us find solutions instead of assuming that government comes over the top with all the answers, because that clearly is never the case. And since we're going down that path, one thing I do want to be able to share in my time with you is, first of all, politicians tell us what we want to hear, but leaders tell us what we need to know. If there is one issue and only one alone that Kansas business people should be watching in this election, it is that of immigration. We've touched that here a little bit, but we're going to take a little bit different turn in the process. First of all, the border. Both parties now have embodied secure the border. Well, duh, if any country in the world has one, it's their obligation to be able to manage it. But that is not the issue that should affect and will affect the economies and business of Kansas. It is the next layer of immigration behind the wizard in the curtain. Donald Trump has vowed repeatedly that should he be successful in getting back to the White House, on his first day in office, he will turn loose the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Police, and he will have them go out and identify, arrest, and deport every single undocumented individual in our country. Tens of millions of individuals be affected. The official estimates in the state of Kansas is that we have 62,000 undocumented residents in our state, which means the numbers are probably twice that. Most of our undocumented immigrant populations are in largely the southwest part of our state. They were drawn there by agriculture. They were drawn there by the meat packing plants in Dodge City, Garden City, and Liberal. Tremendous industry that goes on there. Those four plants together employ about 11,000 individuals and process 12,000 heads of cattle every day. What happens should deportation begin? What happens to the economy of our state? First of all, our labor force in that part of our state declines. The price tag of beef in the supermarket goes up. We saw this in COVID, labor shortages. That is what will happen. The price of beef cattle at the auction block will drop because the supply chain management could not keep up with the processing involved. What happens to the price of corn? The price of corn in this cycle, this harvest just beginning, is already projected to be a bumper crop, which also means its prices will be low. And now the demand for feed corn, because of all the other factors, will drop even further. What is the impact to our economies? Our rents are dropping. Our sales tax receipts are dropping. And if anyone in this room is naive enough, and they're not, because these are savvy business people, Alan, and I know that.
They hired me.
Yes, they did. If anyone outside this room is naive enough to believe that this will only encompass and insulate the southwest corner of our state, that would be sadly mistaken. There's no way to do that. Fuel prices will be affected, retail prices. And what will initially look like recession numbers will start smelling like depression numbers. That single decision, left or right, Democrat, Republican, right or wrong, can impact this economy and every person in this room. And why? Because the leader of that party believes that they can create more unity out of finding an enemy in the process. And that could not be more ludicrous to us. The great immigrants whom I've met, and many of you have met across our state and in our district, are first, second, third, and fourth generation. These are individuals that work hard in our communities. Their children and their grandchildren go to school with our children and our grandchildren. They sit in the same churches. They purchase at the same stores. These are our communities. It is Kansas' opportunity, because we can be a leader in this process, is to exactly what other speakers have said, embrace immigration. The Congressional Budget Office reported month before last that when U.S. can get back to immigration numbers as pre-COVID, over the next 10 years, the economy will grow by trillions of dollars, and we could reduce the national debt by $900 billion simply by growing and being good neighbors of our families and friends in the 1st District and in our state. That is what is before us. Thank you for your patience, Alan.
Well, no, the format is, 10 minutes. You can take 10 minutes to answer a question. You covered lots of things, and frankly, a couple of my other questions. I'm looking at Eric. I think we maybe have, so we have 2 minutes. So you got 2 minutes, including your last thing about why should the Kansas community vote for you. But like all these questions, there's no way you can answer them, and I couldn't answer them in a minute, but try. What role should Congress have in reviewing federal regulations? What is the role of Congress versus the executive branch with regulations? And remember, we only have a couple of minutes, and you got a minute for your close.
Well, Supreme Court already ruled here recently that for the federal agencies to have autonomy without congressional oversight and intervention is against the law. So that puts the onus back on Congress to actually do the job that we've sent them there to do, which is to service. And the job will be enormous in that process. But I'll circle back to how we started the conversation.
Sure.
More times than not, just because government can does not mean the government should. Sometimes our legislature, both state legislature and U.S. legislature, we might be better benefited by having more recess time than actually in session time.
Perfect. So timing is good. Now, so last question: why should the Kansas business community in Congressional District 1 vote for you?
Politicians tell us what we want to hear. Leaders tell us what we need to know. Elections are about choices. They've always been about choices, and the choices involved in this election, the stakes are very high. I am not here to claim I am the better person. I've met Tracy as my opponent. I like him a lot. Process. The choices are those in this audience and outside this room to decide about the choices that my opponent has made and the choices that I make or will make. I believe in protecting reproductive rights of women. I believe in protecting America's freedom by supporting and giving weapons to Ukraine, because their freedom is our freedom. And I absolutely believe that embracing immigration, embracing and not deportation, is our way to freedom and to be able to expand this amazing economy in our state.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here, and thank you for running.